Hello guys, this is probably gonna be a shorter video today. We're gonna talk about what do you do when they inevitably split the party, because this is one of the most difficult things. I don't. No, that's not right. It is one of the more common help. What do I do in this situation to really keep GMs on their toes, or something to get used to? I usually refer to it as spinning plates, and there are a couple of ways to really handle it. The first is if you are not comfortable dealing with a team that splits up often, this is a a bigger deal in non Shadowrun settings due to the lack of communication options that you have. Shadowrun is really forgiving in that between cyber eyes, ears, earbuds, glasses, comm links, all of that stuff, it is really easy for communication to be always inclusive. When the street samurai does a drive-by of a place and takes a look at it with his cyber eyes, everybody is seeing that picture, and they are um, able to ask questions, draw comments, roll their own dice involving things that are happening there that is relevant. Um, it is one of the greatest things about Shadowrun is the fact that you are never, well, I'm not in this scene, so I'm gonna kind of roll back and eyes glaze over and not pay attention because you always have that electronic communication edge to get involved. The second way, and this is a an unfortunate thing. I don't know. Well, I'm sorry, that's the wrong words. I pre-write notes for this episode because I kind of switched topics, but that's not important. I'm tangenting. Talk to them out of character. Like when I'm like, guys, you split up all the time. Can you throw me a bone here and try to limit it a little bit? It is, and I know it's for me, it is mentally exhausting to spin three or four plates at a time between the different players doing different things. If they do it, it's okay, but try to talk to them out of character about it because that is maybe they don't realize how difficult it is because you're the one that's always been the GM and all your stuff you do is always great. They don't realize how much extra mental stress they are putting on a singular person to remember and action three or four different scenes that are happening simultaneously in different parts of Seattle and things that are going on without highly disrupting the flow of the game. Your main offenders in this situation are going to be Matrix people and social people because they are going to do things that people can't normally get to. The Matrix people are going to be inside of hosts and doing searches online and that kind of thing. Your social people, not everybody's going to have large social pools, the disguise to be able to do it properly, or any other number of things that socially designed character has to get into places that he is socially infiltrating into. And the more people you add to one of those social infiltrations, the quicker it falls apart. So if you're trying to pass yourself off as one moderately important guy, you're you might have a bodyguard, but are you gonna have a bodyguard, a magical support, and a matrix support as part of your entourage? No, that starts to pull the con apart uh, at its seams. So it then becomes the difficulty of how do you spin all of these plates at once. So talk to them out of character that hey, this is rough on me. Use the tools that you have available by it being an electronically connected sorcerer, not sorcery, intercommunicating technological world. It is built with cameras everywhere and that kind of thing. But one of the things that I like to do is cinematic cuts. Um, be working with a person. Let's say you're working with the Matrix because they are the biggest defenders of focusing on forcing the spotlight on themselves unintentionally. It is just mechanically what happens because you are doing hacky stuff. So you're going to not have anybody else involved because when you suddenly get multiple hackers on the same team, it's going to really slow down games because like, all right, well, I'm going to throw an assist roll for you and I'm going to throw assist roll for you. Oh wait, no, your dice pool is higher, and then it breaks down into huge amounts of mechanics rather than telling the story, which is not what we want. Unless that is what you want, in which case, by all means, have fun and continue to do it. So while your decker is doing matrix things, first thing you're going to do is cut out a lot of the chaff. Things like changing his programs and uh, his deck attributes, don't bother with, because now you're just adding more time to each of his actions that he's doing. Deckers have a free action every pass. When they're in hot sim, they can get a whole bunch of initiatives per 3 seconds to do a whole bunch of different things, which allows them to each pass switch around two things. If they go crazy, they can have a configurator set up and go even deeper with things like perfect time, overclocker, and quick config as qualities, where they can reconfigure their entire deck every turn and just be like, all right, until we roll initiative, I don't care what your deck is set up as. Just don't, because you're going to add a lot of time to all that stuff, and that's going to cause that situation to pull out into even more time that is being taken up by a singular person. While they're in there, it's like, okay, you get a mark on the camera, it gets you a mark on the host, you enter the host, what do you do? And because let's say it's a rating 3 or 4 host, it's going to take them a little bit of time to get a look on things. So that's not really a matrix perception test most of the time, because you're going to be sorting through different things. That's going to take a little bit of time to do a matrix search, not a matrix perception. Have them set that up while they roll that out. Have their dice maybe sit in front of them or write it down on the back of your table if you're doing an online thing. At that point, just have those number of hits sit there. Okay, cut away. Street Samurai, what are you up to while your decker is searching and you're driving him around in the cars that he's close? Scouting out the building physically? Awesome. Roll your perception test. What are you looking for? That kind of thing. Give him information on that. Now you've gotten the decker and the Street Samurai are doing stuff. You got 2 plates going. Okay. From Street Samurai, go back to decker, give him a little bit of information, find out what his next step is, because they are in the same amount of time. When he is okay, you have found the file you want. You're going to roll to crack it. Awesome. Roll your dice. Have their hits sit there for a minute. Don't roll the opposition for it, because now you're going to cut over to the mage or the social person or that kind of thing. It's like, okay, your decker has gotten you the information of the middle manager at this place. You come in and you are throwing your social rate around, as it were, trying to get your way with the poor secretary by throwing the middle manager's name out. The decker has preemptively inserted you having an appointment, something along those lines. That is going on. While that's going on, decker is doing things. Street Samurai is, sitting out in the car. Maybe he came in for physical security. Maybe he's somewhere else in the sprawl working another angle. There are little times where it is dramatically appropriate that you can cut away to see what your other people is doing. In the first set, the decker was doing a test that was going to take a couple of minutes to complete in that matrix search. So while he is working on that, you've given that plate a good spin. It's going. And then you're going to cut over to the Street Samurai. You've seen what he's doing, but he's on his way to doing something else. So you give him just a little spin, and he's going to get some information and then go on to whatever he's doing next. The decker is continuing on with what he's doing, but has reached a dramatic part by holding his scene on that crack file action. He does not know whether or not he has succeeded, so he does not know whether or not the host is alerted yet. And then you've given him a dramatic pause in his scene while you've cut over to somewhere else, which is in this case is the social guy, who is trusting his decker to provide him the information he needs to pull off the con or the social infiltration he's pulling. So he is now also waiting on that dramatic action from the Decker when you just, kickstarted his plate. While that's going on, you can easily go over to one of the other guys to see what they're doing. Maybe they were binding a spirit for that day. So that's taken a couple of hours, and depending upon how they set it up to do their infiltration, you can just do a little small role play in the binding of a spirit example. Have that spirit come to him in the astral, roll out his roll out his dice for the actual binding then, and have that role play moment of what is it you seek from me, mortal, and then uh have the mage do a little bit of interaction for them. You can even give them some bonus dice if you guys are into that kind of thing. And it's just a little something to show that you have not forgotten about the mage. You don't even need to really put up a plate for him in this situation because he knows that he's going to be busy for a couple of hours. Coming back to our other three plates that are going, the Decker is the linchpin in this situation because he's doing that hacking thing. So come back over to him, find out how it's going, find out whether or not he's alerted the host, find out whether or not a security spider has logged in. Give him the information that he needs so that it can feed dramatically into the face as he's doing his thing. Maybe he notices that the secretary, her eyes go off into AR with that unglazed look for a moment, and he knows that the Decker just set the host on alarm. So she's paying away. Maybe he does something to regain her attention so that she doesn't check on some memo that just got sent up of hey, there's somebody messing around with the host. Give him that opportunity to undercut the tension of, oh god, everything's on alert. Um, the street samurai could maybe be pulling in the vehicle into position to get everybody out. So, have him make a pilot groundcraft test and maybe like a stealth oriented test to kind of see where he can hide the vehicle. So now you have those three plates are continuing to go, and then dependent upon the rest of the situation, you're just going to kind of slide back and forth because it's like in a movie where they have the one scene and then they shrink it down real small to like a picture in picture, and you have the rest of it going on, and then you just shrink that picture, and then all of a sudden you have that third picture that's going on. Then they kind of all zoom out to a big triangle taking up the entirety of the screen, but you can see all of the different things going on at the same time. You just need to get into the habit of which tasks are going to take time or have uh, a dramatic moment where you can split them. It will depend a bit on your run as to what your runners are up to and what they are actually doing as to how many things they're trying to perform simultaneously. It'll be different every time. Sometimes you will talk to your runners and that mage who is off binding a spirit, he will have the street samurai will be with him and doesn't necessarily want to do anything to contribute towards the run at that moment because he's there uh, watching out for the mage. Maybe because he'll be in contact with everybody else as they get information, you can cut over to him with that information that they have now gained. Some people don't like interjecting when they have um, removed themselves from said scene. Pop over to them, be like, okay, with this information, there's anything you want to do because you guys have just downloaded a large file, you're filtering through some of the information. As a GM, maybe you know that they have a knowledge skill that is appropriate. Rather than say, hey, Street Samurai, go ahead and roll your gang's knowledge. Ask them if they want to do anything, because when the player says, ooh, I have a gang's knowledge, can I roll that? And you say yes, that is more empowering than when you go to them and ask them to do something. When you're poking and prompting them to do all these different things, they're gonna not get they're gonna fall into the bad habit of not being proactive. And Shadowrun is a proactive game, and the world waits on you to do things to an extent. It is those people that are working at that corporate facility you're trying to infiltrate are going to show up for work today. They're going to go through their job, they're going to go home, and they're going to, you know, say hello to their family and go to bed. Tomorrow they're going to get up, they're going to go to work, they're going to do their job, they're going to come home to their family and say good night and go to bed. Most times there will not be all right, we just have to wait for this time, that'll be our opportune thing. Sometimes stuff like that happens where they'll be doing a host maintenance or something like that, and mechanically lowers the host's rating for that mechanically lowers the host rating for a day or two, which makes it easier for your decker to get in. There is usually not stuff like that though, but you can always intermix them if you're trying to wean your characters into a more thought and planning phase. Um, the the more you the more you spin plates, the easier it becomes, and the more your team is into it. Um, without knowing your specific table, I am hard pressed to give you ideas on how to do it for your specific table. I will throw in a quick game story. I have recently begun running a fifth edition game for some real life friends of me out of my apartment. They come over with the five of us. Um, Sorcerer, monk, barbarian, druid. They come into this new town, and it's like, well, what do you guys want to do? You don't have anything to do until you have a meeting at dinner time. And the monk, in his backstory, wants to find out some information about the gods. He's real nihilistic, that kind of thing. He's like, do they have a library? It's like, well, they have a place where there's a bunch of books, and it's not like a grand center of arcane knowledge, but you could go there and check out what they have. And he's like, all right, I want to go over there. The barbarian decides he wants to go down to the docks and check out the local crime place. Sure, you can go down all there all the time. Druid wants to get cleaned up and do some other investigations, find out what the word on the street is. Sorcerer wants to go and spread a bit of the word about the details that they have done and find out what the street urchins know. Okay, great. Monk, go. Boom. Okay, roll me perception. Here's the description of the scene. Here's the description of the guy. He asks you what you want. You tell him you want books on theology. Takes you up to that section. Give you a little bit of hook. I mentioned that he rolled really well on his perception. So as he was walking, he noticed that underneath the old man's clothes, he had two wraps of chains that kind of went around his chest. He didn't really know what that was, but he asked a brief question. The guy blew him off as that's nothing you need to worry about. Here are the books you asked for. You'll find everything you need here and only here. And then gives him the stink eye as he walks away. Scene cut on dramatic moment over to Barbarian at the docks. Rolls a perception, rolls a charisma. People are giving him the stink eye because he rolls really well, really low on his charisma roll to kind of look nonchalant and fit in socially. Kind of, in Shadowrun it would have been an etiquette roll, but that doesn't have an etiquette score. But he sees as he looks around a lot of people that have badges noticing the local crime syndicate. He notices that everybody seems to be kind of looking at him because he is the outsider. He notices that uh, the organized crime people are sitting together in a small group and that there is a half-orc guy with him. He's like, all right, I'm going to go over to the bar and I'm going to buy these guys a round of drinks. Okay, great. You give them a round of drinks and then cut to the druid. Now we have two dramatically spinning plates. Come back over to druid, who is talking to some people. Finds out somebody that she can go and talk to for specifically by name for a better bit of information. Okay, great. Goes over to there. It's not a dramatic thing. That's just this is going to take you a little bit of time to perform the task to go from point A to point B. So we're gonna stop on your scene, put a little bit more spin on this monk and barbarian. We're gonna come over to the sorcerer who is spreading rumors and such. It's like, all right, give me some charisma rolls. Give me a perception roll. Tell me what you're trying to accomplish. Here's a persuasion. Here's a effectively a streetwise, and here is another roll. Talk a little bit about what they are trying to accomplish, and uh, that'll be a. They didn't really have anything else they were trying to do outside of spread these rumors and stuff. It's like, all right, well, how long are you looking to spend doing this? It's like, well, I don't have anywhere to be, so okay. I'm like, all right, well, do your last charisma roll with advantage, which lets them basically re-roll. In Shadowrun, that would be an extended test. Since they're not doing anything, I'm like, if there's anything you come up with, let me know, and we'll rope you back in. Come back over to the monk. He comes back. He confronts the old man about, is there anything else here that you could help me with? He's like, no, you should leave because he had pride a little too deep. He gets feisty with the old man. Old man casts fear spell on him. He runs out of the building because he fails his wisdom. Dramatic cut. Go over to the Barbarian in the bar. Talk about some of his backstory stuff. Talk about the uh, what he's trying to accomplish and what he's trying to get out of them. Make some charisma rolls. Make some perception rolls to see, not perception, insight rolls in that case to kind of see what that is. Find out what he's up to. Cut to the druid. Let me rewind. So that conversation ended with him wanting to get a job uh, out of the crime syndicate because it's what he's looking for. He wants fat loots and money, that kind of stuff. Cut to the druid. Have a role play encounter between her and the person she was sent to find information about. Minor charisma roll just to see how well it kind of goes, and a couple of neat little role play interactions. Jump over to the sorcerer. You good? You don't need to do anything? She's like, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna continue with this. Awesome. Cut back over to the monk. What do you want to do? He's like, I want to break back into that place. Something is up here. Gymnastics roll, climb the place. Uses his silence monk ability to break the window, jump in, climb down. Awesome. You're now back inside the building. Shattered glasses all over the ground. The old man doesn't know you're here. Dramatic cut to the barbarian. Give more jobs, more information on the job. Work out, okay, do you have anything else you want to do here? And he's like, no, I'm just going to kind of chill and hang out with these guys. Awesome. Give me a charisma roll and give me a constitution roll to see how it goes, because the charisma roll, how you interact with them and that kind of thing. The constitution roll is because he was going to drink. He wasn't going to drink to excess because he knows he has this thing coming up. But the constitution roll will be dependent upon how high he gets. He is going to have more beer. Like, he's never going to get drunk because that's not his intention. So the constitution roll won't influence that. What it will influence is how much he can hold down to keep himself at that level of being fully functional while still impressing these guys. Does that roll, has nothing else he wants to do. Awesome. Cut. Druid, you good? You need to do anything? No? Awesome. Cut. Sorcerer, you doing anything? No? Good. Cut. Back over to the monk, who is sneaking in the room, makes that last 6-foot move up to behind the guy, and then begins to beat him senseless. There is a small scuffle, and then after he knocks the dude out, tears off his chest, finds out that he has a set of chains that is holding looks like a book or a small journal over top of his heart, that the skin underneath looks kind of like black and rotted, and he takes that chained book from him, leaves some money on the table for the guy, and leaves. And that's where we cut for the night. So there was a lot of different places where I made a lot of different cuts as I spun some plates to try and come back around to it. The Barbarian and the Monk were doing the most things, so they had a lot of dramatic cuts as they were going through their motions. Most of them took only 4 or 5 minutes of spotlight time to, all right, what's your intention here? What are you trying to do? Give me some dice rolls. The more plays you have spinning, the more you kind of want to abstract it. You don't want to sit here and get into an in-depth role play with them on every aspect of these cuts. You want to kind of get what their objective is and then move on, because you want to keep everybody involved. at the same time as you make these cuts. So first cut from monk going to library to barbarian. Okay, you're in this seedy bar. It is everything you've ever wanted to be. Every corner seems dark and mysterious. There are people of ill repute all around, and the bartender is serving what could be alcohol in a dirty glass. He does his thing. Come back around to the monk. Large building, description, cranky old man. Come back over to the barbarian. The criminal people have been giving you the stink eye as you've been sitting here, and some of the other patrons are kind of keeping away from you, mostly because you stick out as an outsider, and that is not necessarily something that is well received here. What do you want to do? And then you get into that second part of things. Sneaking back over to the monk, it's like you come out of the 15-foot high stacks where there are those elevators are propped up there. The old man is writing away at the book at whatever he was working on. That when you came in, you come out to the end of the corner and are back in his immediate presence. What do you want to do? Come back over to the barbarian. Re-describe the situation, because what you are doing when you take those moments to re-describe the situation is you are throwing smoke and mirrors. You are serving the mirror part being where you kind of refocus things, remind them of what they were doing when they were there, because that helps everybody to stay in the scene that they are in. The smoke part comes from what you're actually doing is buying yourself time for your gears to turn internally to think what the next step is when you come back to that guy. And that is kind of where it comes into practice. The more you do it, the more times you are refocusing that mirror, the more it's like, okay, well, what do you want to do? Put the onus on them to move that situation, that scene forward more, so that you have time to listen and think to yourself on what is going on. Um, Especially if you can do it if you are given the opportunity to do it at nice dramatic moments, because then when I cut away from that monk who has broken back into the building and is looking to probably do physical harm to this guy, and you cut, people at the table are like, oh my god, what are you up to? Like, they have that extra couple of moments to sort of process the scene, and maybe a little table talk on it, that kind of thing. In Shadowrun, it's a little bit more interconnected. Um, the monk could have called up the rigger to get a drone in there to keep an eye on this guy, find out when he goes to bed, that kind of thing. The face who goes to the bar to meet the seedy underground um can have the mage or the matrix support dig up information to feed him assist dice in a way or another on influencing this guy, or more information about the bar, or trying to like get information prior so that when he walks in he more fits the place. um i I'm sure I will be coming back to this topic in a more well thought out and note taken form, but at the moment I'm not 100% sure how much of that came across. I look forward to your comments and such on whether or not it made sense, and if you guys have any suggestions or ideas on how I can coalesce that stream of consciousness into a more uh, fit for consumption words, uh, I will totally work on getting that set up for you guys, because I want it to be something that is digestible and understandable, as opposed to just, well, this is what he said to do, and I'm trying it, but it's not working. So please leave some comments and questions and all of that good stuff in the comment section. Hit me up on Twitter at GM_Bamce, BAMCE, and I will hopefully be able to reorganize this episode into something that makes a lot more sense. Thank you guys for coming up, and I will talk to you in the near future.